This video, I'm going to talk about some of the most complex emotions and feelings that a person can go through in their life. There's a phrase that I certainly heard in my life, but I've had countless people say to me this phrase. And the ones that are successful, unfortunately, with the outcome that they think they're looking for, that they end up always regretting if they survive. The phrase that they say is, it'd be better off if I wasn't here. It'd be better off for my family. It'd be better off for my friends. I'm such a burden. It'd be better off. And I want you to know that it's not better off with you gone. That is not reality. What happens is an incredible amount of shame, self-loathing, self-hatred. What if I could have XYZ? What if I would have just made that phone call? What if I would have sent that email? There is no solution to life ending swiftly in regards to the emotional things that you're going through. Taking control of that yourself is the greatest tragedy I've ever seen repeatedly in my life. And if you're there and you're struggling and you don't know how to escape it, this video is for you. And if you're curious and you want to know, how do I help people and love people well going through these type of circumstances, this video is also for you. I was 12, 13 years old. By this time in my life, I had so much shame and self-hatred and self-loathing. I did not want to live. And I had explored options. I was really intrigued with this desire. It was continual. Why am I here? Why bother? Those are the phrases I heard in my mind. And it didn't have much feeling on the conscious level that was connected to those phrases, but I can promise you this: there was tremendous self-hatred and self-loathing and depression and anxiety that was just under the surface that would bubble up from time to time for me. I had a tremendous amount of, I guess there's no other way to say it than to say it, pressure on me. And I became what I needed to become to survive. And I hated that. I was unable to be myself. I had to be a manufactured, created being to make it in what I was living through. And that person, tragically, wanted a way out. And I've seen this many, many times. There's been a recent experience with this in my life, and every time it's heartbreaking. It rips your soul out. It makes you question everything that you know about life and your relationships. And I was a young kid that just wanted it to stop. I wanted the violence to stop, the screaming to stop, the denigration to stop. And I knew that there was a way to make all that happen. And I had pondered this for years. Like I said, I'm 11, 12 years old here. And I had always wondered if that outcome would be optimal for me. If it would make all the pain go away for me. on this day, I decided that it would. I didn't write a note. I didn't leave anything behind for anyone to find. I didn't want questions and I didn't want answers. I had just decided simply, I am not going to continue. And I remember walking out to, my parents' garage there. And I remember this desire to have peace. And my brain at that time had been convinced by evil itself, that the correct decision, the right decision, the decision that's going to exchange my experience on this temporal plane for freedom of what I was experiencing. I believe that lie. And it didn't cause any life-damaging consequences, thank goodness. Because shortly after I entered that garage, I ended up thinking to myself, if I can just keep going for my brothers and sisters, we're going to find a way out. If I can just help them get out, whatever happens after that, it is. But I need to help them get out. And that began this incredible cycle of shame for me, where I never felt like I was good enough because I couldn't change the things that I wanted to change. And I couldn't be what they needed me to be. I'm a 12-year-old kid. I'm not a grown man. I'm not an adult. I don't understand the complexity of what all of us were going through. But I certainly held it all against me. And I remember walking out of that garage unscathed. Very, very close to laying down in the dust of death. I know what that feels like. And I gotta tell you, your life is worth more. Your life is worth so much more. There are solutions to these things that you're going through. And it's not a physical solution. It is a spiritual solution. Regardless of what you believe, you can find peace and you can change. I am 100% certain of that. You see, I had to choose. I had to want to live. And in that moment, I made a decision that I'm going to find a different way to live. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to help me. I don't know if I'm going to make it. But I'm going to do my best to give it a shot. Not for me, because at that time I had so much shame and self-loathing. I didn't believe I had any value as a human being. I didn't believe I had anything to offer the world at all, which is why I wanted to leave this world. And the idea struck me that I have to help them get out. And that became my guiding purpose for the next, 10 years of my life. 8 years of my life, I guess I would say 8 years. I was like 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there when this happened. And I wanted to I wanted to be able to be some sort of a role model, if you will, for my brothers and sisters. Not that I was perfect and was doing this thing right, more that I wanted them to see that they can get out, and that if you do your best in school, an opportunity is going to happen, all those different things. I really, really wanted things to change, and I didn't know how to make them change. I didn't know how to make the pain I felt go away. I didn't know how to be at peace with what was happening. But I did know this, that I had a desire to live. And if you've been in this place where you're laying down in the dust of death, I just want you to know that the isolation that you're generating and creating in your life does not serve you. And that you would be very shocked very quickly by the people who'd be willing to drop everything to meet with you and talk with you and be there with you and try to understand you if you just be honest. So many times I heard of these situations where people said we had no idea. We had no idea they felt this way. They had no clue. And I think it's because we can't even conceive that somebody would experience such a deep, intimate relationship with laying down in the dust of death. Usually, it's not talked about. There's no explanation until it's too late. And it is the hardest things that I've had to go through in my life is watching this happen around me. And remembering those that have moved on. If there's one thing I can say about this topic, after being intimately acquainted with it, it would be learn to love people. Not because of what you can get out of them, what you're getting out of the relationship, just genuinely. Where there's an exchange of value. And it doesn't have to be somebody you know. It's just people. After experiencing such deep, deep sadness and depression in my life, I made a vow to myself that wherever I go, I'm going to try to leave smiles behind. And I did it this morning at the Tim Hortons. It doesn't cost anything to give joy to somebody else's soul. Because I've had so much sadness in my life, I understand the weight that would cause somebody to make these types of decisions. And all it takes is a word of kindness to truly transform somebody's life potentially. It's not complicated. A word of kindness, a willingness to get beyond yourself and the day and the frustration and the things you're experiencing to bring joy to another. It is the thing that makes my life so brilliant and so different every day with the human beings I interact with. You never know whose very life you may be saving by being willing to just truly accept the fact that we are all human and we are all equal and we all have things that we're going through. And you get to decide if you're going to be part of the human race that serves and helps people grow, or are you going to be part of the human race that takes from people? There's only two sides. You get to choose. After being in chronic depression and anxiety and complex PTSD and all these labels I can throw on this stuff for so many years in my life, I understand that feeling that really it's a fantasy, is what it is. It's a fantasy that there is a solution for this, but it requires everything that I have as a person to acquire that solution. It is not something to choose. It is not something to choose. There is always a way forward if you are willing to search for it. There is always a way forward. And I found my way forward, and I was inspired by my relationship with my brothers and sisters. I said, we're going to make it. And I don't know how. I don't know what's got to happen, not going to happen, might happen. I don't care. I'm going to be here and do my best for them. And that's what I could do. That's all I could do. I wanted to be someone that could show them that they were loved and valuable and important. And I wouldn't even classify the job I did as a good job, because I had zero tools to do that job when I was that young. But I did the best that I could. I really did, which honestly was probably practically an inept job. If I'm being real, I mean, I can't imagine I did a good one. I didn't know how to love back then. For me, love was violence and hatred and war and fighting and attacking and arguments that were meaningless. So many meaningless arguments. But slowly but surely, I started seeing a different way of living. See, around this time, I started having friends and going over their houses and seeing, wait, you don't get the crap kicked out of you if you drop a glass or you make a mistake. You don't get lambasted. This is really strange. It was a weird reality being around other people and their families and witnessing how things were done differently. It gave me so much hope that there's a different way in this world, that I can find that potentially, and I'll be able to live that way. I wish that I could get some moments in my life back before my friends went to the great beyond. I wish I knew how to love them well enough. You know, I still have some grief and some guilt. And what's crazy is I know it's not even my fault and there's nothing that I could have done. But that doesn't change the way I've suffered and the way I've felt. I mean, I haven't thought about this in a long time. It's been years. But there's a price to pay to be among the living. And that price sometimes comes to bear. sometimes comes to bear. And I don't know about you, but there's been so many times in my life where I felt like I wasn't enough, where I could have done, if I would have just done X, things would have changed. And that's just guilt masking around as if you could have done something differently. I want to absolve you of that in this video. That individuals made their decisions and it's not your fault. No matter how much you want to blame yourself, it's not your fault. You did not do this. You didn't. That individual made their decisions. No matter what you said to them, no matter what you did to them, they made their choice. That's the hardest thing to accept, is that some people choose the great beyond. They do not choose to remain. And I wish things were different. I wish people could experience genuine, authentic relationship and love in their life, because they would never, ever, ever, ever choose to end it if they could. It took me many years of my life to get to a place where I had authentic, real relationships with men in my life that cared for me, that I mattered to, that I was important to. And I wish everybody had that, but few do. It's difficult to find people that you can be so radically honest with that they'll actually accept you without any equivocations. But I want to encourage you, they're out there. You just have to find them. You have to be careful with who you share the wounds of your soul. Ultimately, the question is this going to add to or take away from my wounds? Is this going to add to or take away from my shame? You can survive. It's worth it. The life I have now, I could have never seen coming. Getting married, having a kid, like being able to be present and be a dad. Oh my goodness. That is the opposite of where I come from. Opposite. Being able to stand in the gap for other people and encourage them and walk with them into wholeness, that is the opposite of where I come from. I've learned through experience in the moment. I've learned through exploring the human condition in the worst situations possible. And I remain convinced that regardless of what life has thrown at you, it's worth living. It's worth being here. It's worth being present. You get an opportunity to be somebody. No matter what anyone else has said or not said about your life, you get to be you if you choose it. Stop living for other people's expectations, their premeditated resentment. That's what I believe expectations are. Because we are imperfect beings, and for somebody to make an expectation for me to live up to, that's quantifying the ability for me to disappoint them. which is something I would never do.